Those two characters were written using a rather ancient script. That being so, there didn't seem to be any particular might or power to them. In fact, looking at them from afar, they would have looked like the scrawlings of a child who had just learned calligraphy. But taking a closer look, one would notice that there was a unique aura imbued in those words. This was an aura that carried the scent of history, signifying the existence of an artifact that transcended through time. It had existed since ancient times, and it felt like it would continue on for many years to come. Just by looking at it, ones will seem to drift through history, seemingly undergoing a baptism of time. Where is this place? Zhang Xian asked in astonishment. This is the place where the offspring of the Zhang clan awaken their bloodlines. As long as one is of the Zhang clan, their bloodline would be awakened by entering the blood reservoir. And be it their comprehension of cultivation, or their understanding their occupations, they would soar by leaps and bounds. Zhang Wuchen said, "Awaken their bloodlines?" Zhang Xian widened his eyes in realization. It was no wonder why those two words would leave him feeling so temporally disorientated. In the first place, the Zhang clan's bloodline was relating to the control of time. So naturally, a place where their bloodlines were activated would surely have intricate ties to the time quintessence. Zhang Shi, are you interested in heading in to take a look? Zhang Wuchen asked with a smile. Head in. Am I allowed to go in? Zhang Xian was astonished. It was obvious how important the blood reservoir would be to the Zhang clan. And yet, to invite an outsider like him in? Our blood reservoir is only effective on offspring of the Zhang clan. Outsiders won't be affected by it, and similarly, they wouldn't affect it either. Don't worry. It's not a big deal to go in to take a look. It's not uncommon for some guests of the Zhang clan to request to take a look at our renowned blood reservoir. And from time to time, we would bring them over for a tour too. Zhang Wuchen nodded. Of course, those were all eyes. The blood reservoir was a forbidden land for the Zhang clan, such that even offspring of the Zhang clan would have to receive permission from the elders first before they could be granted access. The reason why he created that load of nonsense was to dispel the other party's suspicions. I see. On the other hand, Zhang Xian was completely oblivious to the third elder's intention. All that was on his mind at the moment was curiosity as to what would be inside the blood reservoir. Considering that it was a place where unique bloodlines could be awakened, perhaps entering the grounds would grant him a deeper understanding as to the abilities of the Zhang clan. This might put him in a better position to deal against the young prodigy in the future. Let's go. Seeing the complete lack of suspicion on Zhang Xian's face, Zhang Wuchen heaved a sigh of relief. He walked up to the seal in front of the gates, took out his token, and pressed it against the seal lightly. Wang! The massive gates to the blood reservoir slowly creaked open. After Zhang Wuchen walked into the room, Zhang Xian warily followed suit too. As soon as he stepped across a formation barrier erected all around the blood reservoir, his body immediately jolted. It was a rather perplexing sensation that was extremely difficult to describe. But if he really had to put it in words, it would be that there was a difference in the flow of time. He could feel an incongruity in the flow of time around him. Perhaps it was because he was too accustomed to the natural flow of time that he had never really perceived it before. But as soon as he stepped into the blood reservoir, the difference became very apparent to him. This is, Zhang Xian asked questioningly. This is a folded space which our predecessors left a long time ago. It harnesses the quintessence of time. The flow of time within this space is random. It would be fast at one moment and slow at the other. So it's common for those who have entered this area for the first time to feel a little uncomfortable. However, once the bloodline of a Zhang clan offspring fuses together with this space, he would immediately find himself descending into the river of time. In that state, the offspring's perceived time would slow down, granting him the span of a year within a single month outside. This would mean that the offspring has more time to comprehend his supporting occupations and cultivation. But of course, as the difference in the flow of time only applies to the soul, so there would be no difference in his real cultivation and mastery during this period of time. Zhang Wuchen explained. So they would be able to study for a year when only a month has passed outside? Zhang Xian was astonished. Even if they couldn't achieve any concrete growth in their cultivation during this period of time, it was still an extremely formidable ability. A year and a month, that would mean a temporal slowdown of 12-fold. In other words, the offspring of the Zhang clan who had awakened their bloodline would be able to study at a rate 12 times faster than others, as long as they were in the blood reservoir. It was no wonder why the Zhang clan had far more geniuses than the Luo clan. Just this blood reservoir was enough to cement their position as the #1 sage clan of the master-teacher continent. Eye of Insight. After recovering from his shock, Zhang Xian discreetly activated his Eye of Insight and began scanning the blood reservoir in detail. The folded space that formed the blood reservoir was indeed significantly different from those he had seen in the past. Under the Eye of Insight, he saw many layers of light overlapping on one another, reminiscent of a rainbow. They were all flowing in a single direction, albeit there being some differences in their speed. If one were to move along with the flow of light, one could clearly sense a change in the flow of time around them. However, these flowing currents of light were intangible existences. They could neither be touched nor even affected. In fact, without staring intently at them, it would be hard for even Zhang Xian to perceive their existence, let alone fuse into them and alter their speed. While Zhang Xian was proceeding ahead, Zhang Wuchen was observing him discreetly by the side, and the knit on his eyebrows was slowly growing deeper and deeper. There isn't the slightest bit of anomaly on him, could he not be it? Previously, both he and the first elder had suspected Zhang Xian of being the person who had gone missing, and that was the reason why they intentionally brought him to the blood reservoir to verify their doubts. Upon entering this room, ordinary Zhang clan members, even if those who had never been to the blood reservoir before, would find their bloodlines being activated and fall into an unconscious state. Their primordial spirit would be brought into the unique flow of time, granting them more time to learn and cultivate. But it was clear that the blood reservoir wasn't reacting to the young man at all. It seemed like not only did the young man not possess the Zhang clan's bloodline, he didn't have anything much to do with the Zhang clan at all. Right, his primordial spirit. A thought came into Zhang Wuchen's mind. Even if something were to happen to the bloodline of a Zhang clan offspring, he would still be able to achieve resonance with the blood reservoir through his primordial spirit or soul. After all, even if a person were to change everything of his, he still couldn't change his soul. With such a thought in mind, Zhang Wuchen stepped forward and suggested with a smile, "Zhang Shi, the blood reservoir harnesses the time quintessence. You'll need to be in your primordial spirit form if you wish to get a closer look at it. Why don't you try it? Perhaps you might just be able to comprehend something from it." Primordial spirit? Zhang Xian pondered for a moment before nodding. Got it. Possessing the means of the soul oracles, he had cultivated his soul into a gigantic form. But after learning the heavenly art of dimension unravel, he had gained the ability to morph its size freely. Given so, it would be nigh impossible for even a cultivator of Zhang Wuchen's caliber to see anything wrong with his primordial spirit, so there was nothing for him to conceal either. And it just happened that he wanted to explore the secrets of the time quintessence harnessed within the blood reservoir too. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, Zhang Xian drew his primordial spirit out from his glabella. And indeed, the sight that he saw as a primordial spirit was vastly different from that he saw with his physical eye. In an instant, it felt as if he had been plunged into the midst of a frosty winter, and what that somewhat resembled snowflakes could be seen drifting all around him. Zhang Xian instinctively understood that these snowflakes were a physical manifestation of time created by the blood reservoir. So he reached his hand out and attempted to grasp them. Hula! His hand simply passed through the snowflakes. The blood reservoir isn't reacting to his primordial spirit either. Is there really no hint of the Zhang clan bloodline in him at all? Meanwhile, Zhang Wuchen was assessing the reaction of the blood reservoir intently, and a hint of disappointment surfaced in his eyes. If the young man was really a member of the Zhang clan, he would surely be able to affect the surrounding physical manifestation of the time quintessence, and even absorb it into his soul. Yet, for his hands to simply pass right through them, there could only be one possibility: he was completely unrelated to the Zhang clan. It seemed like all of their deductions had been off. Sighing deeply, Zhang Wuchen shook his head before calling out to Zhang Xian. Zhang Shi, it's time for us to leave. Leave. Hearing those words, Zhang Xian swiftly returned his primordial spirit to his body and stood up. Even though the blood reservoir is open to outsiders, it's still a forbidden ground of the Zhang clan. So there's a limit on how long you can stay in here, Zhang Wuchen said with a wave of his hand. Seeing the stern look on Zhang Wuchen's face, Zhang Xian found himself being rendered speechless. It was not as if I was the one who had requested to enter the blood reservoir. You pulled me in here, and barely after staying here for 5 minutes, you suddenly urged me to head out with such an austere look on your face. As if I'm causing trouble for you really. Every single person of the Zhang clan should really bring a screwdriver wherever they go so that they could tighten up the screw that keeps getting loose in their head. Farewell. Seeing that the smile had completely vanished from Zhang Wuchen's face, Zhang Xian couldn't be bothered to stay on any longer either. So he turned around and left. If you don't want me to see, so be it. It's not as if I really wanted to see it anyway. I'll have to report this matter to the first elder. Shortly after Zhang Xian left, Zhang Wuchen quickly left the blood reservoir as well. He shut the massive gates well before flying swiftly in the direction of the first elder's residence. He had left too quickly that he didn't realize that the time quintessence in the blood reservoir was shuddering non-stop. As if having witnessed something terrifying, it dared not move in the least. Flitting forward, he soon found himself where the first elder was. How is it? The first elder asked. He isn't. Zhang Wuchen shook his head. He isn't. I took him to the blood reservoir, but there was no reaction at all. I tried testing his primordial spirit too, but he was unable to retain the physical manifestation of the time quintessence. That should be more than enough to verify that he isn't a member of the Zhang clan. Zhang Wuchen swiftly filled the first elder in on what he had seen in the blood reservoir. It seems like I have been thinking too much into it. The first elder shook his head as his eyes turned cold. Since he's completely unrelated to our Zhang clan, dispatch someone to challenge him in swordsmanship, so as to teach him that there are powers whom he can't afford to offend. Also, with all the mess that he has made in our Zhang clan, you must make sure to resolve the issue well. He mustn't be allowed to leave easily. Otherwise, what will become of the dignity of our Zhang clan? That young man had destroyed their entrance formation, made the sculptures of their predecessors run amok, and caused the collapse of their guest area. If not for the hint of doubt at the back of their minds, there was no way that they would have allowed the young man to do as he pleased. The Zhang clan could not appear weak before others, or else the powers that had chosen to ally with them would lose confidence in their leadership. That fellow has tamed the Inferno Qilin. I fear that if we push him too far, he might just cause some mishap, Zhang Wuchen replied hesitantly. While that fellow appeared to be a mere Grand Dominion realm cultivator, he had tamed the Inferno Qilin, whose cultivation had reached Saint Nine Dan pinnacle. If he really caused an uproar, while the Zhang clan would be able to suppress it eventually, it would have to pay quite a heavy price to do so. Simple. The first elder placed his hands behind his back and harumphed coldly. Have the inner clan members suppress their cultivation and challenge him with a bet. Force him to remain in the Zhang clan and devote his entire life to serving it. Since he has taken away our clan head Saint Beast, how can we allow him to walk away just like that? And if he loses the bet fair and square, we will also be able to explain the matter to Yang Shi. It was true that master-teacher clans were bound by principles and rules, but that did not mean that they were foolishly honest people. Putting aside those destroyed buildings, just talking about the Inferno Qilin itself, the Zhang clan had devoted unimaginable resources over the prior 3 years in order to tame it. Just the fact that they had brought in 9-star beast tamers, one after another, should make that very apparent. How could they simply gift it to Zhang Xian just like that? Not to mention, it was obvious that the young man had come with the intention of challenging the Zhang clan. Honestly speaking, if not out of deference for his identity as Yang Shi's direct disciple, they would have had him captured and forcefully retained. You're right. Zhang Wuchen looked at the first elder and asked, who will be a suitable candidate for dealing with him then? For a clan to continue growing stronger and stronger, and eventually reach the top, they had to resort to underhanded means from time to time. There were simply some problems that could not be resolved otherwise, so this was something that could not be helped. The first elder pondered for a moment before nodding. Zhang Su, Zhang Heng and Zhang Qin should be fine. Their understanding of swordsmanship has reached a decent level, and their strength is formidable for their level. It shouldn't be too difficult for them to deal with a Grand Dominion realm lad. Very well. I'll instruct them to challenge Zhang Xian later on, Zhang Wuchen replied. How is the preparation for the clan assembly coming along? When will it be held? The reason they had gathered all of their outstanding clan members and the experts of every occupation was to conduct their clan assembly. Since most people had arrived, it was about time to hold the clan assembly. We'll be conducting it once day breaks. As you know, this involves the marriage with the Luo clan, so we can't afford to have any hiccups. The first elder said as a glint flashed across his eyes. I understand, just that the young prodigy is still missing to date, so. Zhang Wuchen said hesitantly. Like I have said, we'll be using this clan assembly as a platform to conduct a tournament, and the person who finishes in first place will marry the little princess of the Luo clan in place of our young prodigy. There's no time to be wasted, or else things might just spiral beyond our control. The first elder said grimly. I guess that's the only way around it. Zhang Wuchen nodded. Clasping his fist, he bowed deeply and said, I'll make arrangements right now. However, I think challenging Zhang Xian should still come after the clan assembly. Otherwise, Zhang Su and the others could be disadvantaged during the tournament. All right, I'll leave it up to you to determine the specifics. The first elder nodded before falling silent. While they were discussing Zhang Xian, the man himself had already returned back to his residence. While he was making his way in, he saw a human silhouette heading his way. The human silhouette clasped his fist and greeted, Teacher. It was Zhang Juxiao. What are you doing here? I heard of the commotion that you've caused, Zhang Juxiao replied with a bitter smile. This teacher that he had just acknowledged caused turmoil like there was no tomorrow. He had been causing a ruckus ever since he arrived at the Zhang clan. And if not for the first elder holding everyone back, someone might have just assassinated him by now. Hearing those words, Zhang Xian waved his hand to signify that it was nothing before asking hurriedly, Why is your clan in such a hurry to conduct the clan assembly? Without a doubt, the reason the clan assembly had been brought forward was because of Luo Ruoxin. However, that was all he knew at the moment. Even now, he still was not too sure just what kind of despicable plan the Zhang clan was hatching this time around. I just finished looking into the matter. It seems like there's only one reason the clan assembly has been brought forward. It seems like the clan is intending to hold a selection to select another person from the younger generation to marry the little princess from the Luo clan, Zhang Juxiao replied. Select another person to marry the little princess? Zhang Xian's eyebrows leaped up in astonishment. With his fists tightly clenched, he asked, What about your young prodigy? Isn't he supposed to be the little princess fiancé? Based on rumors that have been going around, the young prodigy has gone missing. No one knows where he is. However, with the marriage with the little princess of the Luo clan coming right up, there's no time to be lost. Thus, the elders decided to find the most outstanding talent of the younger generation in the Zhang clan, to take his place and marry her. Zhang Juxiao revealed all that he knew about the matter. Screw this. Zhang Xian felt blood rushing to his head, threatening to take his sanity away. It was already shameless for them to force a marriage on Luo Ruoxin. And now, they were even randomly finding a replacement for the young prodigy, just because the latter willfully went missing. Had they ever considered the Luo clan's feelings before doing this? What did they take Luo Ruoxin to be? How can they take the marriage with the Luo clan so lightly? Zhang Xian roared in fury. This was truly the most ridiculous thing that he had ever heard. How could the Zhang clan even think of finding someone to replace the young prodigy in the marriage? Was this not a complete lack of respect for the other party? It seems like the Zhang clan has no choice in this either. I'm not too sure about it, but it appears that there's something much more important tied into this. In any case, one thing is for certain. The Zhang clan is determined to go through with this marriage, and they won't allow anyone to foil it. Zhang Juxiao said. When will the tournament be held? Zhang Xian asked with a livid expression. Zhang Jiuxiao clearly felt a cold killing intent leaking from Zhang Xian's body, and he shuddered slightly in fear. A bad premonition suddenly surfaced in his head, and he hurriedly exclaimed in horror. Teacher, there will be many experts at the tournament. You mustn't act recklessly, otherwise, I fear that you might be placed in a precarious situation. He knew the personality of his teacher very well. Obstinate and fearless, never hesitating to go through with whatever he believed in despite the risks. Back in the Qingyuan Empire, he had also stood against the emperor and a vice pavilion master without any hesitation. However, the Zhang clan could not be placed on the same level as the likes of the Qingyuan Empire. As the #1 sage clan, the Zhang clan was one of the strongest powers on the master-teacher continent. If his teacher interfered during the tournament, the Zhang clan would not allow this matter to be resolved peacefully. Not even a Saint 9 Dan pinnacle expert would be able to survive the wrath of the Zhang clan. Knowing what Zhang Jiuxiao was thinking of, Zhang Xian replied with a sinister smile. Rest assured, I won't be the one causing trouble. The one who will be causing trouble is you. Me? Zhang Jiuxiao was taken aback. Indeed, I want you to participate in the tournament and win the champion seat. Zhang Xian waved his hand grandly. Me? Champion? Zhang Jiuxiao was stunned. He hurriedly shook his head and said, How can I possibly become the champion? He was currently only at the Grand Dominion realm. Even if he immediately made a breakthrough to the phantasmal space realm, he would still be far from matching up to Saint 7 Dan pinnacle experts like Zhang Chun and Zhang Feng. It was doubtful whether he could clear the first match or not, let alone vie for the champion seat. This was something that he did not even dare dream of. It was already a wonder to him how he, a member of the Side family, was able to attend such an important clan event. Obtaining the champion seat on top of that was something that he did not dare dream of. Nothing is impossible in this world. As long as you trust me, I can grant you strength far surpassing the other members of the Zhang clan within a short period of time, Zhang Xian replied. Seeing that Zhang Xian was not joking around, Zhang Jiuxiao replied with a bitter look on his face. Of the younger generation, the strongest individual that I know of, Zhang Chun, has already reached half-dimension sundering realm. According to the rumors, there might even be others who have already reached the dimension sundering realm. Against them, I am simply far too lacking at the moment. It was not that he did not believe the young man before him, but some things were simply impossible. He knew full well how large the gap between Saint 6 Dan Grand Dominion realm and Saint 8 Dan Dimension Sundering realm was. Against a real dimension sundering realm expert, even if there were 1,000 of him, he would only be able to run for his life. Besides, the core members of the Zhang clan were top-notch geniuses, and it was questionable whether combat masters of the same level would be able to compete with them or not. Thus, the chances of him achieving victory was pretty much zero. There's no need to put yourself down like that. Just the fact that you have chosen to acknowledge me as your teacher means that you have far better eyes than the others, Zhang Xian said. It's my honor to be able to become your student, but still. Zhang Jiuxiao's face still as bitter as a bitter gourd. He would have loved to be confident as well, but the tournament was the very next day, and his current strength was just 2. I know what you're worried about. With his hands placed behind his back, Zhang Xian turned to look at Zhang Jiuxiao. I, Zhang Xian, have risen through the ranks from the Tianxian kingdom. Within less than 14 months, I have advanced by cultivation from Fighter 3 Dan to Saint 6 Dan Pinnacle. All in all, I have 7 direct disciples. My first disciple, Zhaoya, is the young court chief of the Glacier Plain Court. My second disciple, Wang Ying, has entered the Spirit Awakener Guild, and she's a strong candidate to becoming their future hall master. You have met my third disciple, Lu Yang, before. Even though his whereabouts are unknown at the moment, he's a person with both guts and determination. I have no doubt that he will find his own way in the future. My fourth disciple, Zheng Yang, is currently the progeny of combat of the Combat Master Hall, in the line of succession to becoming its next hall master. Zhang Xian slowly walked toward Zhang Jiuxiao as he spoke, and the presence he exuded seemed to grow taller and taller. My fifth disciple, Yuan Tao, is the young master of the Yuan clan. Possessing the purest emperor's bloodline of the Yuan clan, he's in the line of succession for the position of its clan head. My sixth disciple, Lu Chong, will be inheriting the heritage of soul oracles, and his comprehension of soul arts will be matched by none in the world. My seventh disciple, Wei Ruyan, is the newly appointed head of the Poison Hall. Possessing the innate poison body and poison soul constitution, only the foolish would dare stand in her path. All 7 of my direct disciples have achieved great accomplishments and made me proud. The reason I took you in as my student is because I bear great expectations of you too. But are you going to retreat in the face of my high expectations? At this point, Zhang Xian was already standing right before Zhang Jiuxiao. Their heights did not differ too much from one another, but for some reason, it felt as if he was towering over Zhang Jiuxiao. There was a sharpness in his eyes that seemed to peer right into the depth of one's soul. Zhang Jiuxiao's hands were trembling nonstop. At this point, he could not even tell whether it was excitement or trepidation anymore. He had known that his teacher had quite a few direct disciples, but he had not known that they were all such formidable figures. The young court chief of the Glacier Plain Court, the progeny of combat of the Combat Master Hall, the head of the Poison Hall, the young master of the Yuan clan. All of these titles were not beneath that of the deputy clan head of the Zhang clan. And yet, they were all his students. If he had not heard it with his own ears, this was something that he never would have believed. Hearing all those exploits left his blood running wildly in excitement. He desired to become as powerful as the rest of them, but at the same time, he could not help but doubt himself. Was he really able to reach such a height too? But even that hint of doubt was swiftly eliminated from the back of his mind. His teacher was a man of great ability, someone who had redefined what was impossible over and over again. Since such a great figure was willing to believe in him, why should he not believe in himself? If he truly wanted to make it big, this was the leap of faith that he would have to take. Seeing that fighting spirit that was ignited in Zhang Jiuxiao's eyes, Zhang Xian nodded in satisfaction. He looked Zhang Jiuxiao straight in the eye, and threw out the very last bomb. If you can win the champion seat in the tournament, I'll take you in as my 8th direct disciple. 8th direct disciple. Zhang Jiuxiao's breathing hastened upon hearing those words, and his face reddened in agitation. He could not believe what he was hearing. The only other celestial master teacher that the world had ever known was Kong Shi, and of his 72 direct disciples, even the weakest of them had successfully become an ancient sage. In fact, even the founder of the Sanctum of Sages, the legendary ancient sage Bo Shang, could not be considered one of his stronger direct disciples. From this, it could be seen just how formidable a thing it was to become the direct disciple of a celestial master teacher. The young man standing before him was a celestial master teacher, too. And while his 7 direct disciples were still little-known figures on the master-teacher continent, there was little doubt that they would rattle the continent at its core in the near future. If he could become the 8th direct disciple of the young man, his future would be boundless. Even the founder of our Zhang clan didn't possess extraordinary bloodline from birth. It was only after he reached the pinnacle that his abilities were passed down generation after generation through his bloodline. So what if I'm from the side family? That doesn't mean that I'm unable to surpass the others and reach the very top. The more Zhang Jiuxiao thought about the matter, the more excited he felt. Kings, dukes, generals and ministers, did they only attain the influence that they possessed because power and nobility was etched into their bloodline? Who said that one's bloodline would determine one's final destination? If that was the case, despite so many outstanding geniuses possessing the purest of bloodlines being born in the Zhang clan over the past several dozen millenniums, why had none of them been able to surpass the founder? Of the 72 sages of Kong Shi, none of them had been born with powerful innate bloodlines. Success did not hinge on one's bloodline, but relentless hard work and perseverance. It was only with the grit to push through the tough and unyielding will to forge a way to the top that the slim chance of getting a glimpse at the peak would open up to one. Of course, a good teacher to point out the right way was crucial too. Right now those 2 factors were already in place. He had the best possible teacher in the world, and he also had the grit to climb to the top. Now, he just had to make the journey there. As long as he could clear this trial and become his teacher's 8th direct disciple, a whole new world would appear before him. Teacher, what do I have to do? Just give me your instructions, and I'll definitely achieve it. Deciding to leap right in, Zhang Juxiao looked at Zhang Xian with burning passion in his eyes. Good. Seeing that the young man had made up his mind, Zhang Xian nodded. All right, kneel down and pay respects to me. Right now. Zhang Juxiao was taken aback. Won't I be qualified to become your 8th direct disciple only after I emerge as the champion in the tournament? He dared not believe his ears. It was just a moment ago that his teacher had said that he would only take him as his direct disciple after he became the champion of the tournament. It should have been something very far away and uncertain, so why would? In response to Zhang Juxiao's doubt, Zhang Xian directed a confident smile at Zhang Juxiao and said, Since I said that I'll make you the champion of the tournament, you'll definitely emerge as the champion. What harm is there in conducting the acknowledgement ceremony in advance? Hearing those words, Zhang Juxiao felt goosebumps rising on his skin, and his heart began beating faster and faster in agitation. The unwavering confidence of his teacher had eliminated every shred of uncertainty from his mind. He felt that as long as his teacher said that he could do it, he would definitely be able to achieve it. All of a sudden, those insurmountable mountains that had once stood in his path did not seem impossible to scale anymore. Zhang Juxiao kneeled onto the floor and conducted 8 resounding kowtows before solemnly rising to his feet, completing the teacher acknowledgement ceremony. Teacher, what should I do now? He asked. Since his teacher had such deep confidence in him, he clearly had a plan in mind. Currently, your cultivation is only at the Grand Dominion realm. If you wish to win the tournament, you will have to raise your cultivation swiftly. It would be nigh impossible to push your cultivation up to Saint 8 Dan within a single night, unless... At that point, Zhang Xian paused for a moment as he looked in a certain direction. We make use of the Zhang clan's blood reservoir. Blood reservoir? Zhang Juxiao scratched his head in embarrassment upon hearing those words. That's a place where only the core members of the Zhang clan are allowed to enter. Someone like me isn't qualified to enter at all. The Zhang clan's blood reservoir was a place of utmost importance. Only those whose bloodline had reached a certain level of purity would be allowed to enter the area and cultivate. People like him had no rights to enter at all. I'll bring you in, Zhang Xian said. If he wanted to raise Zhang Juxiao's cultivation from Saint 6 Dan Grand Dominion realm to a level where he could subdue experts of Zhang Chun's level, normal training methods wouldn't work at all. After all, the other party didn't possess the Library of Heaven's Path and couldn't cultivate the Heaven's Path divine art. On the other hand, the cultivation of its simplified version took a significantly longer period of time. Given so, there was only one last resort, using the Zhang clan's blood reservoir to alter the flow of time. With this, they would be able to increase the time on their hand by 12-fold, thus raising the possibility of success significantly. You'll bring me in? Zhang Juxiao was taken aback. Aren't there seals and formations preventing unauthorized personnel from entering? If everyone could enter the blood reservoir of the Zhang clan so easily, the Zhang clan would probably have been destroyed a long time ago. Considering how his teacher was an outsider who had just arrived in the Zhang clan, how could he possibly be able to enter the blood reservoir, let alone bring him in? I might have no way to enter it if it had been a while ago, but right now, it isn't a problem anymore. Zhang Xian harumphed. Previously, when Zhang Wuchen let him in, he had taken a close look at the formation. Despite its ingenuity, it was still exposed to be riddled with flaws under the discerning gaze of the Library of Heaven's Path. Just using any single one of those flaws was enough for him to sneak in without catching anyone's notice. Let's go. Without much explanation, Zhang Xian led the way forward. It didn't take too long for them to arrive before the entrance of the blood reservoir once more. This is the place. Taking in a deep breath, Zhang Xian circled around the entrance before stopping at a certain spot and tapping lightly on the formation before him. Wang! There was a slight buzz, and the massive gates sealing the blood reservoir slowly opened. At the same time, a small opening appeared in the entrance formation as well. "Hurry up and enter." Zhang Xian quickly walked in, and Zhang Jiuxiao followed closely behind him. The formation quickly closed up once more, and from the outside, it was impossible to tell that someone had been here. "This is the blood reservoir." As soon as Zhang Jiuxiao stepped in, he immediately felt his cells trembling in excitement, and his primordial spirit shaking nonstop. "Not bad. Try activating your bloodline, and see if you can harmonize with the time quintessence in here," Zhang Xian instructed. "Yes, teacher." Zhang Jiuxiao nodded before swiftly sitting on the ground to meditate. He activated his bloodline and attempted to forge a connection with the surrounding time quintessence. But soon, he stood up with an awful look on his face. Till this instant, he finally understood why those of the Side family, like him, wasn't allowed to enter the blood reservoir. It wasn't that the Zhang clan was miserly and was discriminating against them, but that their bloodline was simply too thin. Even if they were to enter the blood reservoir, they would still be unable to fuse together with the time quintessence and cultivate like the inner clan members. And since they couldn't do it, there was no point for them to waste their time coming here either. "Teacher." Zhang Jiuxiao looked at his teacher with a look of guilt on his face. His teacher had gone through all the trouble of bringing him here, but in the end, due to his own problems, he was unable to trigger the blood reservoir. Even though this was something which he couldn't control either, he felt like he had let his teacher down. "Calm down." Seeing that Zhang Jiuxiao was unable to forge a link with the time quintessence, Zhang Xian frowned. "For the time being, you should carry on cultivating first. I'll think of a solution." "Yes, teacher." Zhang Jiuxiao closed his eyes and began cultivating. On the other hand, Zhang Xian activated his Eye of Insight and began scanning the area. Beautiful flowing currents reminiscent of rainbows could be seen all around him, but as if oil floating on top of water, Zhang Jiuxiao was simply unable to immerse himself within it no matter how he tried to activate his bloodline. "It's due the lacking purity of his bloodline." Zhang Xian frowned. The time quintessence in the blood reservoir was left behind by the founder of the Zhang clan as a gift to his descendants. While Zhang Jiuxiao possessed the Zhang clan's bloodline too, it was so thin that he couldn't even activate its ability. As a result, the most he could do was only to draw the rainbow toward himself, but immersing himself completely into it was far beyond his means. If only his bloodline is a little purer, Zhang Xian couldn't help but think. In the midst of his lamentation, his library of heaven's path abruptly jolted, following which, a golden page materialized before his eyes before flying forth with a resounding whistle, heading straight for the cultivating Zhang Jiuxiao. "Shit!" Zhang Xian narrowed his eyes in shock. The Book of Heaven's Path was a weapon which even 9-star poison masters were completely helpless before. Given Zhang Jiuxiao's current strength, there was no way he would be able to withstand it. He hadn't thought of killing anyone, so why would it fly out all of a sudden? Zhang Xian tried to stop the golden page, but it was already too late. It dived right toward Zhang Jiuxiao's glabella, but instead of smashing him into meat paste, it slipped into his mind instead. Following which, he clearly saw the surrounding time quintessence bubbling furiously, gushing toward the meditating young man in the fastest time possible. "Is this bloodline enhancement?" Zhang Xian widened his eyes, clearly shocked by the effects produced. It was just a moment ago that he wished for Zhang Jiuxiao's bloodline to be purified when the golden page suddenly flew forward. Could it be that other than rising his soul depth, assimilate the content of the books in the library of heaven's path for his own, sealing vicious, and crushing others to death, it had the ability to enhance one's bloodline too? If that was the truth, it would be truly fearsome. One must know that he had studied unique bloodlines several times. But even with the help of the library of heaven's path, he was still unable to find a feasible way to purify them. Who could have thought that the golden page would actually wield such a capability? "Teacher, my bloodline." At this moment, Zhang Jiuxiao had also sensed the changes ongoing in his body, and he trembled in agitation despite not being too sure what was going on. "I have helped you purify your bloodline. Here are some pinnacle spirit stones. Use them and quickly make a breakthrough," Zhang Xian said as he flicked his wrist and tossed over all 3 of the pinnacle spirit stones he had left. Even though he had taken Zhang Jiuxiao as his direct disciple, he still didn't feel too comfortable speaking about the golden page before him. Thus, he decided to simply circumvent the topic altogether. Yes, teacher. While Zhang Jiuxiao had no idea how his teacher managed to do it, he knew that this wasn't the time to be asking about it. Grabbing one of the pinnacle spirit stones tightly in his hand, he closed his eyes and began furiously absorbing the spiritual energy inside. Hung Long Long. Due to the enhancement in his bloodline, the rate at which he absorbed spiritual energy became much faster than before. All of the meridians which had been blocked previously swiftly cleared up, and it almost seemed as if cultivation bottlenecks was a concept that didn't apply to him. Kacha! Kacha! In the blink of an eye, he had already successfully reinforced his recent breakthrough to Grand Dominion Realm. Knowing that Zhang Jiuxiao had stopped due to the lack of a suitable cultivation technique, Zhang Xian swiftly tapped his finger and imparted to him a simplified version of the Grand Dominion Realm Heaven's Path Divine Art. With the enhancement in the purity of his bloodline, Zhang Jiuxiao was finally able to draw the surrounding time quintessence into his body, and he used this 12-fold slowdown in time to comprehend the cultivation technique he had just been imparted with. It didn't take him too long to fully grasp it. At this point, Zhang Jiuxiao was intending to break out of the unique state he was in to make the breakthrough in his cultivation, but Zhang Xian stopped him. Instead, he imparted to him a simplified version of the Saint Seven Dan Phantasmal Space Realm Heaven's Path Divine Art as well. While this cultivation technique had yet to reach the level of a true Heaven's Path cultivation technique, yet, it only had a single flaw. Even though it was difficult for Zhang Xian to swallow, to Zhang Jiuxiao, it could already be considered as an incomparably ingenious cultivation technique. Still, this single flaw made the simplified Heaven's Path Divine Art derived from it needlessly more complex than it should be, thus making it significantly more difficult to comprehend. This time, Zhang Jiuxiao spent a much longer time than before. It was only till the sun had risen in the east did Zhang Jiuxiao finally open his eyes, and a sharp brilliance could be seen reflected in his eyes. How is it? Zhang Xian asked. Teacher, I have managed to grasp the cultivation technique all the way up to Saint Seven Dan Phantasmal Space Realm Pinnacle. I believe that I shouldn't take me too long to reach it if I were to start cultivating now. Zhang Jiuxiao replied excitedly. Even though the blood reservoir was able to grant a cultivator the time of an entire year, within the passing of a month in the real world, this temporal distortion only applied to one's consciousness. It wasn't in the truest sense a slowdown of time. As such, while Zhang Jiuxiao was able to achieve a deep understanding of Grand Dominion Realm and Phantasmal Space Realm by making use of the 12-fold time, in truth, his real cultivation hadn't changed at all. He was still the same Grand Dominion Realm primary stage cultivator he was when he first entered the blood reservoir. Nevertheless, having fully familiarized himself with the cultivation technique, he should be able to raise his cultivation swiftly if he were to start cultivating now. It was also using such a method that the offspring of the Zhang clan was able to constantly stay above the geniuses of the other clans. Zhang Xian took a look at the sky, and after confirming the time he frowned. The sun has already risen, so the tournament should be starting very soon. There isn't any time for you to cultivate anymore. We have to head there right away. While making our way over, grab onto one of the pinnacle spirit stones I have given you and cultivate. Try to at least make a breakthrough before the tournament begins. If Zhang Jiuxiao had been any faster in his comprehension of the cultivation techniques, they might still have been able to make it in time. However, it seemed like his expectations were too high after all. At this current time, they didn't have any time to dilly-dally anymore. It seemed like the only thing they could do was to try to have Zhang Jiuxiao raise his cultivation as much as possible while they make their way over. All right. Knowing that there was no time to be wasted, Zhang Jiuxiao nodded. Grabbing a pinnacle spirit stone tightly in his hand, he absorbed the spiritual energy in it swiftly as he hurriedly followed behind his teacher. The place where the tournament is held is the sparring grounds in the Zhang clan. However, teacher, outsiders are prohibited from entering the sparring grounds, so I fear that you might not have the authorization to enter the grounds as an outsider. Zhang Jiuxiao said hesitantly after leaving the blood reservoir. Even outsiders weren't allowed to spectate this internal tournament, so there should be little doubt that his teacher wouldn't be able to enter either. Are clan members allowed to bring their subordinates into the sparring ring? Zhang Xian asked with a frown. Of course. Injuries are common in such tournaments, so they would have to bring someone in to take care of them. Zhang Jiuxiao nodded. Very well. I'll play as your subordinate and enter the sparring grounds together with you then. Zhang Xian said. This won't do. You are my teacher. How can I treat you as my subordinate? Something like that is simply too. Zhang Jiuxiao seemed to be put in a spot. It would be deeply insolent of him to regard his teacher as his own subordinate. There was no way he could do something as unfilial as that. Even though you have gone through the cultivation techniques several times in your head, it's still inevitable that you might accidentally make some mistakes while cultivating them. To be safe, you'll need me to offer you pointers on the spot, Zhang Xian said. Zhang Jiuxiao might have grasped the cultivation method of the simplified version of the Heaven's Path divine art, all the way up to Phantasmal Space Realm Pinnacle, but there would still be all kinds of practical issues that he might face while cultivating his way up. To be safe, it would be best for Zhang Xian to be around to offer pointers and ensure that nothing went awry. I understand. Understanding his teacher's intentions, Zhang Jiuxiao hesitated for a moment before nodding in agreement. With a slight jolt, Zhang Xian's appearance swiftly morphed into that of a yellow-skinned old man. As formidable as his disguise art was, there were simply too many experts in the Zhang clan. If he were to feign as a subordinate, at least no one would pay much attention to him. On the other hand, if he were to feign as Zhang Jiuxiao and participated in the tournament on his behalf, there was a good chance that he would be swiftly exposed. If it was truly that easy to impersonate as one of the core members of the number 1 Sage clan, it would have been destroyed ages ago. It was precisely for this reason that Zhang Xian had no choice but to raise Zhang Jiuxiao's cultivation and have him make a move in his stead. On the other hand, seeing how even he was unable to recognize the disguised Zhang Xian, Zhang Jiuxiao heaved a sigh of relief, after which he swiftly led the way forward to the sparring grounds. Zhang Jiuxiao, it would be best for you not to use your bloodline in the tournament later on, or else it would be difficult to explain the vast difference in the purity of your bloodline, Zhang Xian instructed. If it were to be known that there was actually a way to raise the purity of one's unique bloodline, all sage clans on the master-teacher continent would swiftly go into a frenzy. Once that happened, there could be deep trouble. In any case, it was just an internal tournament. It shouldn't come to the point where he would need to use his bloodline ability. Rest assured, teacher. Understanding the possible implications of the matter, Zhang Jiuxiao nodded grimly in response. Gathered in the Zhang clan's sparring grounds were all of the talented members of the younger generation. The first elder was seated at the topmost seat, and seeing the spirited and confident looks on the faces below, he nodded his head in approval. Typically speaking, most clans tended to decline over time, whether it was due to their talent pool drying up or a culture of complacency going around the younger generation. However, even after several dozen millenniums of heritage, while the offspring of the Zhang clan was indeed a little spoilt, most of them were still driven to grow stronger. It was precisely with such a culture that the Zhang clan was able to remain at the very top over so many years, their position unmovable by anyone. In this tournament, we'll be competing not in supporting occupations or any other capabilities, but true fighting prowess. Those who believe that they have the strength to challenge the ring, step forward. Those who lack trust in their strength, back off. Every single one of you will be able to utilize any means in your possession. But if I were to find that any of you have resorted to depraved arts prohibited by the Master-Teacher Pavilion, such as poison and the sort, not only will you be eliminated from the tournament, don't expect me to let you off easily either. The first elder's voice boomed across the entire sparring field as he glanced down on the faces beneath imposingly. Yes, the crowd beneath replied resoundingly. In this tournament, occupational means were fair game, meaning that participants were allowed to use demonic tunes, celestial designer creations, tamed beasts, so on and so forth, but poison, and the sort were not allowed for very obvious reasons. All right, I hereby declare the start of the tournament. Voila! As those words were spoken, the 8 dueling rings on the sparring field immediately sprung to life. The Zhang clan offspring who were in for the first round swiftly leaped onto their respective rings. Dueling Ring D, 4th battle, Zhang Linqing and Zhang Jiuxiao. After 3 matches, an elder supervising the duel shouted to the crowd. Hula! Zhang Linqing leaped onto the dueling ring and drove his Junqi, revealing his Saint 6 Dan Grand Dominion Realm Pinnacle cultivation. Even though he was one of the sideline members in the Zhang clan, unable to access the better resources, he was still in a much better off position than Zhang Jiuxiao. Where's Zhang Jiuxiao? Does he dare not face his challenge? Zhang Linqing glanced around the area after noting that Zhang Jiuxiao was nowhere to be seen. He had looked into his opponent for the match beforehand. The other party was just an offspring of the side family, who had managed to get into the Sanctum of Sages by some stroke of luck, thus winning himself an invitation to the clan conference by sheer luck. Otherwise, given his identity, he wouldn't even be allowed through the main door. Thus, in his view, this duel was just for show. He would be able to advance up easily without much trouble. I know who Zhang Jiuxiao is. He's a mere leaving Aperture Realm Pinnacle cultivator. He probably is shuddering somewhere in fear at the notion of facing Linqing, not daring to show up at all. He's from the side family after all. What can we expect from him? Elder Fengchen, I don't think that fellow will be showing up anymore. Let's just declare it as his loss. Seeing that Zhang Jiuxiao was nowhere to be seen, a huge commotion broke out amidst the crowd below. A mere offspring of the side family, even if present, would stand no chance of advancing through the ranks. Since that was the case, they might as well just declare his loss straight instead of wasting time here. After all, how could an offspring of the side family possibly compare up to core members like them? I'll give him a tease time. If he isn't here after that, I'll take it as he has forfeited the match. The person presiding over the duel, Elder Fengchen, waved his hand to suppress the commotion and said calmly. There was an elder supervising each of the dueling rings, in order to ensure the fairness of the duels. Even though Zhang Jiuxiao hadn't appeared yet, from the official rules, they would still have to give him some time before considering it as a forfeit. This is pointless. It's obvious that that fellow had fled in fear. It's just a few minutes. What are you getting so anxious about? Actually, I'd love to see him appear and challenge Linqing. It would be fun to see him struggling desperately. The Zhang clan members beneath the dueling ring chuckled softly in disdain. The clear hierarchy in the Zhang clan had put them in a position of superiority from birth. So to them, those of the side family were complete nobodies who weren't even worth a mention. It seems like he really won't be coming after all. Time crept by amidst those chatters, and very soon a tease time was up. Seeing that there was still no one in sight, Elder Fengchen shook his head and declared, Since Zhang Jiuxiao isn't here yet, I'll take it as he has. Pardon me, I'm late. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from the sky above, following which, a tall and slender figure descended onto the dueling ring. 15 minutes. Boom! The impact from falling onto the dueling ring jolted a cloud of dust into the air. Zhang Jiuxiao wiped away the sweat on his forehead. It was fortunate that his teacher had pushed him forward for a significant part of the journey, or else they really would have failed to make it in time. He looked below the dueling ring, and saw that the middle-aged man whom his teacher was disguised as was currently standing by an inconspicuous corner, smiling at him. Then he turned his eyes to Zhang Linqing and said, I should have made it in time, right? So what if you have made it in time? Zhang Linqing shook his head with a sneer as he raised up a single finger. Zhang Jiuxiao tilted his head in confusion, unsure about what that finger gesture meant. Against you, a single move is all I need, Zhang Linqing declared proudly. Even if your cultivation has reached Grand Dominion Realm primary stage, it's still nothing at all to me. Let me show you the difference between the core members of the Zhang clan and those of the side family like you. After saying those words, Zhang Linqing took a step forward, and 6 shadows immediately appeared all around him in the blink of an eye. With a seemingly light downward thrust of his palm, a ferocious might burst forth. It might have appeared as if his attacks lacked skill and preciseness, but the palm strike had, in actuality, sealed the surrounding space, making it impossible for others to escape from it. Formidable. Zhang Jiuxiao nodded. As expected of a member of the main family, he was not to be underestimated. Any other Grand Dominion Realm primary stage cultivator might have panicked in this situation. But Zhang Jiuxiao had already deepened his understanding of cultivation up to Saint 7 Dan Pinnacle in the Blood Reservoir. On top of that, having been taught by Zhang Xian, his understanding of battle techniques did not even pale in comparison to top Zhang clan geniuses like Zhang Chun. So naturally, he would not fall for such a simple move. Thus, he lightly took a step backward and drifted out of range of the palm strike. At the same time, he still continued holding the pinnacle spirit stone tightly in his left hand, furiously absorbing spiritual energy from it. While the speed of his retreat could not be said to be fast, it still caused Zhang Linqing's attacks and possible follow-ups to fall empty. In other words, his first move had ended in a complete failure, failing to harm Zhang Jiuxiao in the least or achieve any strategic purpose. Zhang Linqing harumphed. "I'll admit, you do have some means, but this is as far as you'll go." He had not expected this nobody of the side family to actually be able to find the opening in his attack and evade his offense. With a livid expression, he turned his palm into a claw and struck forward. Tzz. Zhang Jiuxiao immediately felt as if his body had been bound by a rope, and a powerful force pulled his body toward Zhang Linqing. Given the huge disparity in power between the both of them at the moment, he knew that it would be disadvantageous for him to get into close-quarters combat with Zhang Linqing. Thus, taking a deep breath, he drew the spiritual energy from the pinnacle spirit stone in his hand with greater intensity before and roared, "Come on, make a breakthrough!" Zhang Jiuxiao's aura burst into the clouds, and following which, his strength began to surge forth. In the blink of an eye, he had already torn down the bottleneck before him to rush straight toward Grand Dominion Realm Intermediate Stage. This breakthrough had caused his aura and fighting prowess to rise by nearly twofold, allowing him to hold his own against the powerful might that Zhang Linqing was using to pull him in. "You are still able to make a breakthrough?" Zhang Linqing widened his eyes in astonishment. He knew that Zhang Jiuxiao had only achieved a breakthrough to Grand Dominion Realm primary stage in recent days, so he should still have been busy reinforcing his cultivation during this period of time. Yet, he had actually managed to find enough momentum within him to make a breakthrough in the midst of their duel. However, so what if he had reached Grand Dominion Realm Intermediate Stage? He was still a far way off from reaching the pinnacle. "Don't you think it's a little too late for you to be sharpening your edge?" Zhang Linqing sneered coldly as he drove the Jinqi in his body with greater ferocity, causing the prowess of his tug to intensify. GGG. Deep gorges emerged on the surface. Zhang Jiuxiao found himself succumbing to the strength once more, and his body began to be gradually dragged in Zhang Linqing's direction. Zhang Linqing had been at Grand Dominion Realm Pinnacle for quite a number of years now, and he had already familiarized himself fully with his cultivation technique and abilities. As such, his movements were extremely fluid, completely devoid of the stiffness that those who had just reached the realm would have. "Too late. You should learn to hold your tongue until the very end." With a sneer, Zhang Jiuxiao threw the pinnacle spirit stone back into his storage ring, before abruptly stomping his feet forcefully. Boom! 2 massive pits appeared on the ground, and Zhang Jiuxiao's forward-moving body immediately stabilized on the spot. His strength might still have been a little lacking against the other party at Grand Dominion Realm primary stage, but intermediate stage was more than enough. Even though the core members of the Zhang clan were capable of challenging opponents beyond their cultivation realm, one would do well not to forget about the incredible purity of his bloodline at the moment. Even without activating the ability of his unique bloodline, it would still enhance his physical abilities significantly, such that defeating an opponent of 2 cultivation stages higher than him would not pose too much of a problem. What? Zhang Linqing could hardly believe his eyes. He tried to further intensify the strength of his pull, but the other party did not budge in the slightest. In this moment, he realized that he had been underestimating his opponent all this while. The smug look on his face was replaced with grimness, and transforming his claw into a punch, he dashed forward to strike. In the depths of his heart, he still felt that it was beneath him to be fighting against an offspring of the Side family. But after the previous 2 blows that they had traded, he had no choice but to recognize the possibility that he might lose this match if he did not get serious. And that was not something that he could accept. Boom! As his punch surged forth, a sphere of power that somewhat resembled the shape of an umbrella appeared at the tip of his fist, crushing the surrounding air so much that it creaked furiously in protest, on the verge of crumbling apart at any moment. It's a Saint high-tier battle technique, Fist of Void. This is a fist that channels all of the strength a cultivator harnesses in their body through a unique method, and releases it in a single burst. The overwhelming strength in the resulting punch can even cause a void to be created in the air, making it a technique that's extremely difficult to defend against. That's a technique that only the core members of the Zhang clan are able to practice. A mere offspring of the Side family, like him, probably hasn't even seen it before. Let's see how he plans to deal with something like that. Everyone's eyes were gathered upon Zhang Jiuxiao, curious to see how the young lad would fare against an attack of this caliber. On the other hand, Zhang Jiuxiao completely disregarded the commotion around him. In this moment, there was not the slightest hint of nervousness or anxiety in his heart. Before the overwhelming attack rushing toward him, he slowly closed his eyes instead. Through his spiritual perception, he could feel the other party's fist art growing slower and slower, almost like an old man practicing the Taiji fist. So this is the benefit of possessing a pure bloodline, Zhang Jiuxiao thought as an excited smile crept onto his lips. He had not fully awakened his enhanced bloodline yet, but he could already feel the groundbreaking changes in his body. Zhang Linqing's attack was impressive, but to him, it appeared as if it was moving in slow motion, allowing him to uncover all of the flaws in it easily. Teacher once said that to deal with such a forceful attack, all that has to be done is to strike its crux and tear it apart. Zhang Jiuxiao thought as he utilized his finger as a sword and tapped it lightly ahead of him. Voila! Before Zhang Jiuxiao's finger could reach Zhang Linqing, a crack already appeared in the latter's fist of void, and like fragile glass, the umbrella-shaped sphere of power swiftly shattered. A look of horror appeared on Zhang Linqing's previously triumphant face. Peng! Struck in the middle of his chest, Zhang Linqing fell forcefully onto the ground. Excruciating pain engulfed every inch of his veins, and a gush of fresh blood spilled out of his mouth. Why you? Zhang Linqing stared at the young man before him in disbelief. He knew just how powerful his fist of void was, and under normal circumstances, not even a Saint 7 Dan Phantasmal Space Realm primary stage cultivator would have dared to face it head-on. Yet, not only did his opponent do so, he even overcame it with ease. From this, it was apparent that the other party had already reached a level far beyond his. Was this really the strength that an offspring of the Side family should possess? It was illogical. How could he be so strong? You have lost. Instead of answering Zhang Linqing's questions, Zhang Jiuxiao placed his hands behind his back and gazed down at him nonchalantly. While Zhang Jiuxiao was standing imposingly before his opponent, beneath the dueling ring, a certain middle-aged man was trembling uncontrollably with rage. That moronic show-off. He could have settled this duel in a single move, and yet, he just had to waste his effort and use 3 instead. Why the heck did I accept such an unreliable disciple? In some of the Asian countries with significant Chinese population, it isn't a rare sight to see old men practicing the Taiji fist in the parks. The Taiji fist is known for its slowness, as its aim is not quick movements but harmonizing with nature, neutralizing attacks by going with the flow instead of against it. While Zhang Xian was on the verge of spurting blood, the other core members in the sparring grounds had their mouths hanging agape, unable to speak a word at all. Given that Zhang Jiuxiao was an offspring of the Side family, and was far weaker, they had thought that Zhang Linqing would be able to destroy him in an instant. Who could have known that after 3 moves, Zhang Jiuxiao would be the one standing triumphantly on the stage. Not expecting such a conclusion either, Elder Fengchen was stunned for a moment before he remembered his role and hurriedly announced, Zhang Jiuxiao has won. In his long life, there had only been an occasion or two where he had seen a cultivator defeating an opponent far stronger than him, with just a single finger. But again, anything could happen in the dueling ring. It was not all that uncommon for weaker cultivators to defeat stronger opponents. And as such, while he did find it rather incredible, he did not think too much into it. Next round, Zhang Lin and Zhang Fengyan. After achieving victory, Zhang Jiuxiao headed down from the dueling ring and sat down to rest. He took out the pinnacle spirit stone once more and absorbed the spiritual energy within it to convert it into his strength. What he was lacking the most at that moment was time, so he could not waste even a single second. On the other hand, after being helped down from the dueling ring, Zhang Linqing immediately found himself surrounded by his peers. What happened up there? A tall young man asked. As everything had happened too quickly, and Zhang Jiuxiao had struck his opening squarely, most of those within the crowd did not manage to make sense out of what was happening. There's something weird about that fellow. Zhang Linqing shook his head. To be honest, even he himself was still unable to understand how he had lost. His cultivation was higher than the other parties, and the battle technique that he had executed was far superior as well, yet it had still ended in his loss. He really found himself unable to come to terms with it. A cold harumph suddenly sounded, and a slender young man walked over. To think that an inner clan member, like you, would lose to a mere member of the side family. Linqing, you have really disgraced all of us this time around. If I were in your place, I would have killed myself out of embarrassment. Zhang Chuanyi, what do you mean by that? Zhang Linqing's face turned livid with rage. Nothing. I just feel embarrassed on your behalf. The young man named Zhang Chuanyi replied with a look of disdain. You. Zhang Linqing clenched his fists tightly in anger. Zhang Chuanyi had come from the same lineage as him, and the both of them had often argued with one another. As angry as he felt at the moment, he found himself unable to speak a single word of rebuttal after the tragic loss that he had suffered. Thus, he took a few deep breaths and replied coldly, If I remember correctly, you will be facing him next, right? I hope you remember what you have said here, and don't disgrace yourself later on. Disgrace myself? You must be joking. Is there even the slightest possibility that I will lose against a mere Grand Dominion Realm intermediate stage cultivator? Zhang Chuanyi waved his hand furiously, and an indomitable aura burst forth from his body. Half-phantasmal space? Zhang Linqing narrowed his eyes in astonishment. He had often fought with the other party, and their cultivation had always been equal to one another. How did the other party achieve the breakthrough, after just a night of absence? Even though there was only a cultivation stage of difference between Grand Dominion Realm Pinnacle and Half-Phantasmal Space Realm, in truth, there was a world of difference between the two realms. Indeed, what's most important to a cultivator is their cultivation. Before true strength, skills, and battle techniques mean nothing at all. If your cultivation had been at Half-Phantasmal Space Realm, do you think that the fellow would have been able to withstand your fist of void? Zhang Chuanyi sneered coldly. This, Zhang Linqing's body stiffened. The other party was right. If his attack had been any stronger, even if Zhang Jiuxiao had struck his opening, the latter's finger would only have been snapped in two. There was no way his attack would have been neutralized. Rest assured, even though we are rivals, no matter what, we are still from the same lineage. Since you have been bullied by an outsider, I'll surely exact vengeance for you. Zhang Chuanyi sneered coldly as he turned his gaze in Zhang Jiuxiao's direction, and a cold light flickered across his eyes. I won't be as soft as you later on. I'll make sure to defeat him in a single blow. Hearing those words, Zhang Linqing was silent for a moment before nodding slightly. Having fought with Zhang Chuanyi for many years, he knew just how powerful the other party was. Now that the other party had taken a step ahead of him and reached Half-Phantasmal Space Realm, he should be able to subdue that fellow from the side family with ease. The tournament continued, and it was roughly an hour later before the second round commenced. As expected, Zhang Chuanyi was indeed paired with Zhang Jiuxiao. Just as he had said previously, Zhang Chuanyi used his full strength as soon as he got onto the field. It was hard to tell whether he did it intentionally or not, but he executed the Fist of Void as well. The mighty force commanded behind the fist caused even the seal cast on the dueling ring to waver slightly. Zhang Jiuxiao frowned in the face of the fist. Instead of launching a counterattack as he had done with Zhang Linqing, he chose to take evasive measures this time around. Do you think that I'd allow you to dodge my attack that easily? Zhang Chuanyi sneered coldly. Utilizing his newfound abilities as a half-phantasmal space realm cultivator, he sealed the surrounding space completely, such that even one's spiritual perception would not be allowed to enter or leave the space. It seems like I won't be able to match him with my current level of strength. Seeing that the enemy's palm was going to fall on him at any moment, Zhang Jiuxiao muttered beneath his breath. Since that's the case, I'll just have to make a breakthrough. Boom! Before Zhang Chuanyi could even react, he suddenly felt a powerful force bursting forth from the young man in front of him. In the blink of an eye, that Grand Dominion Realm Intermediate Stage fellow had already successfully taken a step forward into Grand Dominion Realm Advanced Stage. With the advancement of his cultivation, Zhang Jiuxiao's strength had risen by leaps and bounds once more. He swiftly raised his hand and retaliated against the Fist of Void with a punch of his own. Pung! The two fists collided, and both parties were pushed back simultaneously. How is this possible? Zhang Chuanyi widened his eyes in disbelief. He had clearly seen the young man making a breakthrough to Grand Dominion Realm Intermediate Stage while he was battling with Zhang Linqing earlier. So how could he continue making a breakthrough right now? Not even cultivation importation could be this fast. I don't believe it. Zhang Chuanyi roared as he dashed forward once more. This time, he chose not to use the Fist of Void, but the battle technique that he specialized in. Hoo. Flitting swiftly around the dueling ring, Zhang Chuanyi's afterimages filled the entire area, forming a circular cage that trapped Zhang Jiuxiao in place. Saint High-Tier Battle Technique, Revolving Dragon Art. This battle technique was aligned with the essence of a confinement formation, and once executed, even his longtime rival, Zhang Linqing, would find himself in a pickle. Even if Zhang Jiuxiao had made a breakthrough, he was still only at Grand Dominion Realm Advanced Stage. There was no way that he could escape from there. What swift movements! Trapped at the center of the circle, Zhang Jiuxiao felt himself being deprived of not just spiritual energy, but oxygen as well, and giddiness was starting to fill his head. His face soon turned grim. You should be glad that you have managed to force me to the point where I have to use this move. You'll be able to boast about this to others for the rest of your life. Zhang Chuanyi sneered coldly as he thrust his palms several times. Pung. From the whirling shadows around him, several palms suddenly struck Zhang Jiuxiao without any forewarning, and he ended up being struck squarely before he could even react. Hey, rest assured, I won't let you lose that easily. I'll slowly drive it deep into your mind that there's no way mere offspring of the side family, like you, will be able to stand against core members like us. Zhang Chuanyi smirked as he continued his attack. At this moment, Zhang Jiuxiao was still fumbling around, unable to find an opportunity to counterattack. Aren't you good at making breakthroughs? Why don't you make a breakthrough right now? Seeing the awful complexion on the young man's face, Zhang Chuanyi burst into laughter. You had your fun making breakthroughs earlier, didn't you? Why don't you do it again? Zhang Jiuxiao patted his forehead in realization. Oh, you're right. I could just make a breakthrough, right? How silly of me. Following which, before Zhang Chuanyi could even process what was going on, the aura of the fellow trapped at the center suddenly surged once more, and in just half a breath, he had already overcome his bottleneck and reached Grand Dominion Realm Pinnacle. The next instant, Zhang Chuanyi suddenly felt a powerful force grabbing his neck. Like a rabbit, he was lifted up into the air. Not expecting the other party to be able to continue achieving breakthroughs, and even grab his neck in a single move, Zhang Chuanyi struggled with all of his might, as if a fish being pulled onto the shore. He had just mocked Zhang Linqing and sworn to defeat Zhang Jiuxiao a moment ago, but everything had gone contrary to his expectations. Was that man really a member of the side family? Even the most talented members of the main family were not able to make breakthroughs so frighteningly fast. He made 2 consecutive breakthroughs in a match. From beneath the stage, Zhang Linqing saw the sight and staggered in shock, nearly fainting in that instant. He had thought that he had only lost to Zhang Juxiao by a hair's breadth. But who would have thought that the other party had much more in him? Before he knew it, the other party was already of the same cultivation realm as him. To make the breakthrough to Grand Dominion realm, Zhang Linqing had prepared for 2 whole years and paid a hefty price. But the other party did the same within just a short hour. Was he still a human? An uproar broke out amid the crowd below, and even the supervising elder Fengchen found his throat turning dry. He had been in the clan for many years, and he had seen plenty of outstanding geniuses. There had also been quite a few who had made breakthroughs in their cultivation during crucial moments in a battle and successfully turned the tables on their opponents. But to achieve a breakthrough on a whim, and not to mention, in short intervals one after another, this was really the first one that he had seen. This was not talent anymore but absurdity. That dimwit. If he had followed my instructions, he should have already reached the phantasmal space realm by now. To still be at Grand Dominion realm pinnacle. Just how did I manage to get myself this fool of a disciple? In contrast to the shocked crowd, Zhang Xian was berating Zhang Jiuxiao beneath his breath, angered by his latest disciple's slow progress. Given the enhancement in Zhang Jiuxiao's bloodline, its partial awakening in the blood reservoir, and the importation of the simplified version of the Heaven's Path divine art, he was bound to be able to make consecutive breakthroughs one after another. But an hour had already passed, and he had only raised his cultivation by 3 stages. This was too freaking slow. Had he known that the fellow was actually such a dunce, he never would have accepted him as his direct disciple. This was an embarrassment, a permanent smirch on his clean record. On the highest platform erected on the sparring grounds, the first elder was currently stroking his beard calmly, while overlooking the duels, when an elder suddenly rushed in and whispered something into his ears. You said that an offspring of the side family has managed to advance into the 3rd round? That's right, first elder. The elder nodded. That person is Zhang Jiuxiao. His first opponent was Zhang Linqing, a Grand Dominion realm pinnacle cultivator from the main family. At the start of the match, Zhang Jiuxiao was only at Grand Dominion realm primary stage, but in the course of the battle, he managed to overcome his limits and make a breakthrough, thus defeating the latter in a single move. The fact that he's able to make a breakthrough in the midst of a battle shows that he's a person of incredible mental resilience. There aren't too many members in the Zhang clan who are able to do that. It seems that even though Zhang Jiuxiao is from the side family, he's a talent that we should keep our eyes on. The first elder nodded in approval. It was a consolation to him to see how outstanding the younger generation of the Zhang clan was. The elder continued his explanation. You're right, first elder. In the 2nd round, Zhang Jiuxiao was faced with Zhang Chuani, a half-phantasmal space realm cultivator from the main family. He made a breakthrough once more to Grand Dominion realm advanced stage, eventually forcing Zhang Chuani to execute the Saint high-tier battle technique, Dragon Revolving Art. The first elder nodded again. The Dragon Revolving Art can be considered one of the stronger Saint high-tier battle techniques. I have seen Zhang Chuani before. He's a decently talented individual who will become a valuable asset to the Zhang clan in the future. A moment later, he glanced at the elder with a look of confusion. If Zhang Chuani used the technique while activating his bloodline ability, while its offensive power might be a little lacking, it should have been able to reach a speed far beyond Zhang Jiuxiao's ability to deal with, especially given the significant gap between both of their cultivation. How did Zhang Jiuxiao manage to emerge victorious? It's just as you've said. Zhang Jiuxiao was cornered by the technique. So he made another breakthrough and rose to Grand Dominion realm pinnacle, the elder said with a bitter smile. He made another breakthrough. The first elder was stunned. You mean to say that Zhang Jiuxiao was at Grand Dominion realm primary stage early in the morning, and he managed to make 3 consecutive breakthroughs, and is currently a Grand Dominion realm pinnacle cultivator right now? Not only so, based on what we've heard, he was only at leaving Aperture realm pinnacle a few days back, the elder said. To be able to rise to Grand Dominion realm pinnacle that swiftly. That's one whole cultivation realm. Where's that lad? The first elder asked anxiously. He's on dueling ring D, in the midst of fighting against Zhang Ningxin. Zhang Ningxin, the talented grandson of Elder Wuxia? He should have reached Phantasmal Space Realm primary stage, right? The first elder asked as he turned his gaze over to dueling ring D. Indeed. The person standing opposite to him is Zhang Jiuxiao, the elder said. The first elder took a closer look and saw that the person facing Zhang Ningxin was a young man in his mid-20s. The young man's cultivation was only at Grand Dominion Realm Pinnacle, and it did not seem that he had practiced any particularly profound battle techniques either, causing his fighting prowess to be slightly lacking. However, his combat sense and ability to adapt in battle were formidable. Zhang Ningxin's attacks were sharp and powerful, such that any other Grand Dominion Pinnacle cultivator facing him would have succumbed by now. But the young man was always able to dodge at his attacks at the critical moment in inconceivable ways. After watching for a while, a deep frown appeared on the first elder's forehead as he asked, "Don't you find it weird? Given how he's able to dodge Zhang Ningxin's attacks with ease, he must have already seen through his attacks. Since that's the case, why doesn't he try to counterattack?" So far, the two of them had already traded more than a dozen blows, but despite possessing the higher cultivation, Zhang Ningxin did not appear to be in an advantageous position in this duel. It was as if he was being read like a book. The weaker Zhang Jiuxiao would always move according to whatever attack he was planning to make and dodge it in advance. But since Zhang Jiuxiao had the ability to read Zhang Ningxin's moves, why did he not attempt to counterattack? It would be foolish to take a constant defensive stance in a battle. Defense should only be considered a temporary approach in order to find the perfect opportunity to counterattack. No matter how well Zhang Jiuxiao was dodging Zhang Ningxin's attacks, it was only a matter of time before he slipped up. Noticing the same problem, the elder pondered for a moment before replying, "I think he probably has no way to counterattack. After all, there's a huge disparity in their strength." No way to counterattack. The first elder repeated those words before a thought suddenly came to his mind, and he narrowed his eyes in shock. "No, you're wrong. It isn't that he has no way to counterattack, but that. At this point, the first elder found himself unable to continue speaking anymore, as if he could hardly believe the thought in his mind. "What?" The elder looked over with a doubtful look. "The reason he isn't exerting any strength is so as to conserve it to push for a breakthrough to half-phantasmal space realm," the first elder exclaimed with tightly clenched fists. "He's conserving his strength?" The elder was stunned. Didn't he just make a breakthrough to Grand Dominion Realm Pinnacle? It's precisely because he has just made a breakthrough and depleted his energy that he has to save up as much of it as possible in order to build up the momentum required to push for a breakthrough to higher realms, the first elder said hoarsely. "Look at his left hand. From the very start of the battle, he has not opened his grip even once." "You're right." The elder nodded in realization. Zhang Jiuxiao had been placed in several seemingly precarious situations under Zhang Ningxin's relentless offense. But even so, he had still kept his left hand firmly by his side, not releasing his grip at all. He had thought that this was a battle plan that Zhang Jiuxiao was using, so he did not pay much heed to it then. "What he's holding in his palm is a pinnacle spirit stone," the first elder said. The elder was stunned for a moment before quickly activating his spiritual perception. Upon clearly seeing what was in Zhang Jiuxiao's hand, he widened his eyes in disbelief and said, "Does this mean to say that while coping against Zhang Ningxin's offense, he's still absorbing energy from the spirit stone and raising his cultivation? Isn't that obvious?" the first elder said with a quivering voice. He had seen plenty of formidable geniuses in his time, but he had never seen one who was that confident in himself. To be cultivating in the midst of a battle against an opponent far stronger than him, was he not afraid of death? Or did he simply have that much confidence in his strength? "You are courting death. I was still planning on hiding it, but you are forcing my hand." While the two old men were still in shock, on the dueling ring, Zhang Ningxin suddenly bellowed furiously, and his aura began surging up. Zhang Mingxin is going to make a breakthrough too? The elder exclaimed hoarsely. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.